remove myself from the chair and you can run the election of the deputy chair.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone. So, thank you for your support, everyone. It's really so the next item agenda is on the agenda is the appointment of the deputy chair. And similar to, do we have to go through the system A one again first?
Yes,
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so very similar to the election of the chairperson, this is for the community board deputy chairperson, and
so, Mr. Chair, there's a couple of parts to this. Number one, you don't have to elect a deputy chair, but as a board, you may choose to elect the deputy chair. So I suggest maybe you deal with that first, and then if you choose to elect the deputy chair, then choose the voting system and undertake the election process.
Okay. So does anybody have any opinions on the appointment of it?
I guess I can see both sides of the situation. So we could appoint a deputy chair, which would mean that in the instance that you're unavailable as chair, then we're aware of who will chair the meeting, or we could not appoint and therefore elect a deputy at any such meeting that you weren't available for. That's probably my opinion, that it would be good to have a deputy chair, just for convenience of knowing who would be taking that chair. And I say that simply as having had chair experience myself. When you sit in the chair, you're kind of viewing the papers in a slightly different light, and it's good to have that preparation ahead of time. So my preference would be to elect a deputy chair.
Okay. Does anybody have any?
I was going to say, is it worthwhile keeping it more fluid, so that if the occasion arises, we just elect a deputy at the time, just with the chance of actually sort of sharing around with experience maybe.
Any other comments? So would someone like to move that we appoint a deputy chair?
Happy to do that, but I absolutely, completely see the other side of the coin as well. So I think I'd be really interested to hear from the members of the board.
You're happy to move that? Yeah. So, yeah, you can always vote against, the motion. Okay, so Kevin has moved that we appoint a deputy chair. Do I have a second? All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against?
So, Hamish, would you like your vote recorded against?
It's not a point.
No, okay, yeah, that's fine. It's just a convention that we
Yeah,
always ask.
Yes, you do have a choice.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and now we move on to choosing voting system A or B, and as before, previously we chose system A. So, discussion on that.
I'll vote. Can we choose system A? Move that we.
Yeah. So you'll move that we appoint. We use system A.
Yep.
Second for that. Thank you, Nika. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. So now I'll call for nominations for the deputy chair role. And self nominate. There being no nominations, nobody is appointed to that role. Okay. Fine, thank you. So, the next item on the agenda is allocation of responsibilities. Yes,
So in the Hammer Springs Community Board, they have allocated areas of responsibility listed down there under background number 3, which is kind of an idea of what kind of responsibilities you could allocate to members. This is not a requirement, but yeah, a recommendation, I guess, from us. It works quite well in the Hammer Springs area.
So if I could add, Mr. Chair, through you. As Errol said, this isn't a requirement. Different councils and different community boards do these things differently. As a council, we don't allocate portfolios to councillors. We have structures and committees and so forth, but we don't allocate portfolios. Some of our neighbouring councils allocate portfolios to councillors, so it's entirely up to you whether you think allocating portfolios would be beneficial or not. The claimed benefits of doing so are that it means that things don't get lost, that people have got an eye on, you know, individually on specific things, and it doesn't require everybody to watch over everything. The flip side of that is that as a community board, you have joint responsibility for everything, and you may all wish to keep an eye on pretty much what's going on. So the obvious recommendation is to, but it's just a recommendation.
So if we don't have portfolios, is there still the ability to be you know, called into the various committees, say for waste and recycling, for somebody from here to be pulled into that, or do we have to have portfolios for that?
So pretty much all our operational stuff is covered under the operations committee of council, and that is a committee of the whole, so all councillors sit on that operations committee. As board members, you would be welcome to attend that committee meeting as a member of the public. You wouldn't have any speaking rights at that meeting, but you could attend. Also, it is available online and remains online for a period of time, so you can view these after the event if you were live, if you wish.
So, yeah, so I was Hammer Springs did that, but looking through their papers, I wasn't quite sure exactly what that involved, that person. And a lot of these items are general rates items. I couldn't really get a handle on just what this person, so had a portfolio for cemeteries. What exactly would they be doing? What was their role, their responsibility? It wasn't clear. Hammer Springs was a bit different. It's more recreational, it's called a local where, you know, so I can understand why they might want to do that. It doesn't mean that not necessarily transplants down here. So I mean, I wouldn't like to see us adopt this at this stage. I can understand why we would want somebody who was has a role in terms of designated role in terms of finance, but the others wasn't really that clear. I think it excludes other members around the table as well. So I mean, the two things are either rolling forward to next meeting, get some more information from them, or the after. What would a human doesn't. How does this interface with the role of the councillors as well? You know, you step on toes there right now. I'd expect somebody had a wastewater issue and wanted to talk about about somebody not. So yeah, I think that was my.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kevin. I think that's good thoughts. I also read under this area of responsibilities, other relationships that we might have. And with the award committee, there were representatives from various entities, and just for example, ADRA, Emily Beach Residents Association, Leafield Beach and Leafield, and the Reserves Group. And one of the key things is to make sure that we have relationships back into those organisations. Whereas before it was actually members sitting on the panel. Now we need to be responsible to form those relationships and cement those working relationships in. So I wonder if this is the right place, and we'll seek advice.
We do have a letter from ADRA.
Yes.
There's no reason why we couldn't do it. It's okay. Discussion about sending it to the 4 community boards, 4 residents groups.
Yeah.
And plus you've got people like Reserves Group and Emily, absolutely, etc. and so forth. So,
Exactly. So
yeah.
So you make a comment about the letter from ADRA. The new members before the councillors were appointed also received an email from Joe Hassel representing the Leafield community, and so it's asking exactly the same thing that the ADRA letter had. So we've had communications from 2 of those 4 people. And I think maybe this is the place to actually, in the first instance, identify the groups that we should have a relationship with, and then to the extent that we can, appoint people who have either an interest or be working with these groups, or work out whether people who are on these groups actually want to be the representative there. So should we proceed down that track?
Mr. Chair, could I suggest that we bring back a paper that identifies a wide range of groups within the ward that you might like to have a relationship with, so that we don't miss people out and making a quick buy decision.
I think we mentioned a few of them. I'm sure there are others like
something.
one of the other things that I could see James to be involved in is all the sporting clubs as well, and it'd be good if they had a contact point.
Kevin, they go through ADRA. Not ADRA, the ARAG.
Yes.
Which I tried to research on that, and I found, I've got some notes, I found stuff all about those terms of reference, hours, etc., etc. So I'm really quite uncertain about that, where it fits on, who's on.
You've got some mystery.
That information is available.
And didn't get it on.
Yeah. I can understand that, but do you want to just summarise, James, the number of groups who are on that? It's quite a few groups.
On ARAG, we have all the sports clubs in Amberley. We have ADRA also has a representative on there, and Leafield Beach groups have representatives. We've got any.
Who's the Leafield Beach?
Well, as Joe Hassel's the Leafield representative, village.
She's there as a village rep, not
Yeah.
as a chair.
Yeah, she's just there as a village rep, and we've got all the sporting groups and clubs in Amberley have a seat at the table, and the schools.
And I think there was a councillor.
There's one councillor, councillor comes along.
So it's.
Was there anybody from the old South Ward?
From the South Ward Committee.
Yes.
Joe. So Graham.
No, wasn't it Robert Graham?
Through the chair,
Oh, sorry.
I actually have the list here for you if you want me to read through.
Yeah, go for it, Avril.
It's a lot easier. So Amberley Rugby, Amberley Football, Amberley Cricket, bowls, tennis, netball, A&P, pony club, swimming club, local schools, BMX club, squash club, Lions club, there's a position for residents and 2 independents. And sorry, through the chair, one last thing, Jo Hassel had actually joined, I think, in her capacity as the South Ward Committee chair.
That's right, sorry.
She was the link between
Thanks, Errol. Pauline, I'll take you first and then you can.
Thank you, if I may, through the chair. Also, Simon Benito was the AREG representative that was sitting on the South Ward Committee as it was. I just wanted to mention, just in regards to AREG, the Amberley Reserves Advisory Group, that there was a little bit of discussion or feeling in the community that the name suggests that it has responsibility for reserves, and there was a little bit of feeling that perhaps at the moment it is sport heavy, and so potentially, and I don't know what the correct pathway is for that, potentially it could be good to have a representative from Leithfield Beach, Amberley Beach, Leithfield community, because if it's about reserves in our district or in our ward, they may want to have some input. I'm not sure if this is the right forum or pathway, but I just wanted to put that information out there.
So at the moment, the Andrews advisory group looks like
No, it doesn't do the village green.
Doesn't do village green. I thought it
as an advisory position directly to council. But when we get to your terms of reference, you might find that that you take over the decision making for the village green.
sorry.
Just to be clear,
Just wanted
AREG, through you, Mr. Chair, AREG doesn't represent all the reserves in the South Ward. It represents the domain, and there may well be other users of reserves across the ward, across the whole of the ward, that aren't represented, and there may be some sporting groups like, for instance, croquet, who aren't represented there as well. So, I mean, AREG provides a very wide range of sporting views, but doesn't necessarily cover all reserve uses.
Anyway, so getting back to what Hamish said, I'd be quite happy to move that we have a paper come back to the next meeting on December, I think it was. Yeah, next December, on the groups which we could possibly have representation on. So I mean, settled that 4 residence groups going.
So Errol, have you got? Sorry, do you want to just repeat that?
I'll move that. Report to the next meeting of groups. So, having a representative on or some other time.
So, Mr. Chair, I think there's another question over here from Hamish.
Oh, sorry.
So you'd be asking us for who we think ought to be on that list.
That would be great if you feed that in.
Like, I go to the beach meetings. Anyway,
There'll be some obvious relationships.
Yeah, but if members of the committee wanted to feed that through, members of the board wanted to feed that in through Avril, any groups that you're aware of that potentially might benefit from being connected in. And then there could be business groups, there could be community groups, whatever. And that'll give us a reasonably comprehensive list that we can try and figure out where we need those connections.
Service providers.
So could you just repeat the mention?
South Board Community Board requests the Chief Executive Officer to bring back a report to the South Board Community Board on possible groups for the board to have representation on. And then members are governance advisor and suitable groups. So members, the members are to feedback
Potential.
That doesn't need to be part of the resolution.
Okay.
The resolution is simply to direct.
Without that last bit, so Kevin has moved. We have a second. Thank you, Dana. Any further discussion on that? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, now just looking at the agenda and I missed one, and that is the delegations from council that has been circulated separately. Now, does everybody have that? It's a 2-page document with green highlighting. So has everybody got it? You sent that out as an email on
Tuesday.
So maybe. Yes. Okay, so now council approved these delegations at the meeting on the 4th of November. So, and subsequent to that, I think everybody here received an email from Kevin with quite a lot of questions and clarification questions, etc. Has everybody received that? So, Kevin, would you
Chair, because reading through the few things, like for example, we have funded by South Ward amenity rates, that council donates, etc., etc., etc. We didn't come down to footpaths, which are not funded by the amenity rates. So, how's that? And then the issue, of course, is footpaths. Are we talking about new footpaths, road construction rate, or district-wide footpath rate? So that the couple of issues that are clear. And then we came down to board submissions, the long-term planning. Resource Management Act, that needed a further clarification of all the other things. What the government New Zealand talked about in the briefing document, of course, is communities. So making a council policy. I think the slides which Hamish showed this morning actually talked also about council consultations, which doesn't seem to be there. So there are a few things there which I felt really were a bit not quite clear, a little bit contradictory. For example, also the other thing was that there's no mention of swimming pools. So what is our governance oversight in relation to swimming pool when it's not even mentioned? So my thinking was that we should just adopt them as interim delegations at the moment, and early next year have another look and have a workshop at coming some new delegations which would align to best practice from community boards and align with what local government suggested. Suggested evolved function community board. The document quite interesting is what you get the internals of it is a mixture of text, JPEGs, cut and paste. So it's been around for a while, that document. So I think it might be appropriate.
Okay, I mean, one alternative, I guess, to help everybody at the moment would be to ask Hamish to go go through.
Yeah, look,
Because there's a lot of detail.
Yep.
It's asking.
Looking at it, my view is that Kevin raises a number of good points that need to be considered. Council passed the delegations, which the council has set, and they passed the delegations as is, recognising that this board would likely come back with some recommended changes to the delegations based on the email that Kevin sent out. So yeah, it's definitely worthwhile working through those in a bit of detail and then forming a recommendation back to council for a change to the delegations.
So, I mean, I'm quite happy to move motion.
Yeah.
So, that is one that the board adopts the delegations contained in the report as interim delegations. 2, undertakes review of those delegations terms of reference early in 2006, taking into account the guidance from local government New Zealand and the law and function of a community board and best practice as evidenced by our community boards. 3, that liaises with the Springs Community Board. Part of this review just to be provided curious to it. Board recommends advice of delegations back to the council first.
Thank you. Would you care to
We
open
need
up?
that.
Anybody else have any comments on that? Pauline?
Oh, look, I'll just say I think that that's a very sensible pathway forward to adopt as interim and then take the time to consider the delegations in more detail rather than rushing through today. That'll be my take on it.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I might just ask a question of the governance officers. Does the community board actually adopt the delegations?
I don't think it does.
No, the delegations
That's
are provided by
council.
council, so
Well,
there's no.
you're right,
Yeah.
it sort of got into the papers here as adopted. In fact, I think the appropriate thing, but we just receive them rather than
Correct.
adopt.
Correct.
Which
The word is
is
adopt.
receive, we don't have a recommendation to be adopted, but no.
Yeah.
The council sets them
Yep.
and
Yes, yes, yeah.
we take it. It's
Yeah.
like the board receives, I think is the word there. Receives the delegations. Yep. Cool.
Anybody else any comments on that?
Yeah, doesn't matter whether I'm happy or not,
Yeah,
I do what I'm told.
Yeah, I've heard that before. Do I have a seconder? Thank you.
Sorry, you. Sorry.
Yeah, and Anika, second, okay. All in favour, please say aye. Thanks. Thank you. This one is, next item on the agenda is youth observer on the community board. And as you see from the paper there, written by Michelle. Michelle, do you want to?
Yes. I'm just lost my.
Here's a hard copy, Michelle.
Thank you. Just, you know, I'm having computer issues. Thank you very much. Right, so through you, Mr. Chair, as you probably are very much well aware, the community board was formed as part of the representation review, and the decision to have a community board fell on the local government commission after a hearing. Part of that hearing with the local government commission, it heard that the loss of a youth representative on the community committee at the time was quite a big thing for the community, and as part of its recommendation to the incoming community board was that it looks at adopting a youth observer onto its community board. Yeah, adopting is probably it's proving is the word, not adopting. So a youth observer is different from a youth representative in terms of a youth observer would not have any voting rights and is not a member of the community board per se, but they are there as in an advisory role to offer a youth perspective on the decision making around the table. The difference that the representation that we've had previously on the community committees and ongoing for the community committees that continue on is that they have a full speaking and voting rights. So that is the difference, but a community board can't co-opt or bring anybody on that it wishes has to be elected. So that is the recommendation from the commission. So this paper just outlines the current situation, what representation review told us, what the role would entail, and probably key to point out the meeting schedule implications. So if the board decides to go for a youth observer, if you held your meetings during the day, it might make it a bit difficult for a youth observer to be a part because they're usually at school. So the youth age is 15 to 24. So having day meetings could sort of impact that availability. If you do decide to go for a youth observer, officers would approach the youth council in the first instance to see if they had somebody who would be interested in representing the space, and then that gives them support and it gives them a feedback loop. So they would then report to the Youth Council on what was happening in the South Ward. That's what's happened in the past. So every Youth Council meeting, which is on a 2-monthly basis, they would come and say, this is what's happening in the youth space within the South Ward. Eastern Reserve got mentioned a lot for the South Ward. I know that Haranui, they talked about the halls a lot. So they do come back and they feed back to that space. But there's also office support around the youth space. So if you've got any questions around that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Not a question, but I'll make a comment. Just, I guess, as having sat on the previous South Ward committee before the formation of the community board, we were very, very well represented by a youth member who gave insight and perspective that was very, very helpful in us understanding youth viewpoints in our decision making. And so I personally would be in absolute favour of the officer recommendation of continuing with that in the manner of having a youth observer, for the board.
Yes, so Mr. Chair, I was really delighted when I read that because it's one of the things that I really thought we should do, and I wasn't aware that the government commission had also looked at that, so quite delighted to do that.
In general terms, the Youth Council has been part of council for a long, long time. And I was actually on it. I was the oldest person on the Youth Council. And I really enjoyed it. You know, I was on it for about 6 years or something. And it was just one of the best things that.
And Mr. Chair, having a Youth Council representative on here will really bring out the change.
So, you know, we've got a long history, Mari.
Yeah,
we care to speak.
Yeah, I would. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. But Youth Council in Haranui has always been particularly strong. Many councils up and down New Zealand in this building up to this last triennium actually, you know, discontinued their youth council. So, you know, I feel, you know, that we are absolutely on the right pathway when we continue to endorse the growth of our young people through these governance experiences, and having a youth observer will bring added value to your voices and when you're thinking about decisions for the future of your community. So yeah, I think I support what Pauline has said in that regard.
Mr. Chair, could we have a show of hands so we get a unanimous?
Well, I could put the motion.
So when you do put it.
So
Yes, we can.
Mr. Chair, any member can ask for a show of hands or a division.
Yeah. Okay, so
I'm happy to move the motion.
we have the motion is that the South Ward Community Board approve the inclusion of a youth member as a standing observer on the community board. Moved by Kevin, Anika, thank you. And did everybody understand the hands? Yes. So if all those in favour, please raise their hands. Yeah, so thank you very much. That's really good. And of course, if we can't get somebody from the Youth Council, then we can go through the
Yes, Mr. Chair. So
happens.
yeah, we would then look at the leadership group of the youth program.
Yes.
Who generally come up to the Youth Council eventually,
yeah.
But that is a bigger pool.
Yes.
So yeah.
Sure. Okay. And next agenda item is the appointment of the South Ward Community Board representative on the Sport NZ Assessment Panel. And this is your paper.
Through the chair, purpose of the report is to ask the South Ward Community Board to consider selecting a representative for the sports insight assessment panel. So I'll take the report as read, but basically each year we receive funding to territorial authorities to assist junior sports teams to participate in a local sporting competition. And applications for funding are called for annually and considered by a selection panel, which is made up of representatives from our community. So we're just looking for a representative from the community board here to sit on the panel. And yeah, we would have the opportunity to review those applications when they come in.
So these are only team sports.
Sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
Are these only team sports?
Schools,
No.
schools and sports teams.
The individual sports, like kids traveling far for.
Yeah. I think it
So
is
I
for
think it is
junior
for
teams,
Yeah.
actually, rather than individuals. So for team sports rather than play shooting, for
We get
example.
it through rugby, and then we'll get it.
Yes.
There's conflicts of interest there, so I can't be on it.
You can't be on
No, neither one of us can be on it.
So is that the, oh, yeah.
It's a conflict of interest because we're a
Just in
sports
terms,
club.
yeah, I understand, but in terms of how much is allocated, there's 6,000 from council, and how much is the other contribution? And it's all done through applications, so you get a list of people, and it's the distribution within those, so.
If I may, and I think, I mean, it's every community would be putting a person forward, so it would still be the representative,
But
will be a representative from each community committee and or community board. And so I'm just thinking about the potential conflicts that actually you might need to step aside for one
yes,
of
I
the
can.
suite of applications that might come through, so you might be able to manage it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think you necessarily have to.
yeah, but I'm just not comfortable.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
So, just explain what you talked to Andrew about. So
It's not a conflict of interest, 'cause it's not charity gain to me. It's just I'm uncomfortable about sitting on a committee personally, as I'm involved with the rugby club.
And if you might want the same discussion.
Without any.
Yeah, I mean, we did get,
Just
we did,
to get some
yeah.
advice from home.
So,
Well, that's happening. I'll just clarify that it is actually for rural sports clubs and rural teams with young people aged 5 to 19. So that does suggest, that's from the page, that it isn't for individuals. Just to clarify the question that Hamish made. I've just looked it up. That's on the Haranui District Council Sports NZ Rural Travel Fund regarding eligibility. Yeah. So open to rural sports clubs and rural school teams with young people aged between 5 and 19 who require subsidies to assist with transport expenses. So it is a team.
I'll put my hand up to do it.
I'll move the Anika be.
so we just,
Second.
no, and there's potential conflict of interest there, but she believes that she can approach it with an open mind and
So how much, what should we record our minutes
that Annika declared a conflict of interest, but noted that she can manage that conflict.
Yeah, look, I think that's an outcome. I saw the skill base here. It's pretty relevant to the whole thing, so. So we have a mover, do we have a second for?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, James, we'll do that. Seconder. So all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Okay, that's great. Well done, Nika. Now, the next item is the appointment of the South Ward Community Board Rep to the Hurunui Water Liaison Committee. And this is a paper from me. Inaugural.
So through the chair, again, this is requesting a representative to sit on the Water Liaison Committee. Yeah, council has a take the report that's read. So again, this committee consists of representatives from different community committees and the boards. And you'll note as well that there's an elected member from Waimak Council and Rangiora, Ashley and Wood End Septon community boards. Mayor Mary sits on that as well, so I'm not sure if you
So, Mr. Chair, I can provide a little bit more background if people would like a little more background. So the Water Liaison Committee was initially formed out of the water committees that used to run each water scheme in the district. And about 10 years ago, we unified water across the district so that everybody paid the same price and it was all managed centrally, but we wanted to keep some local voice and how those water schemes were performing. And so this Water Liaison Committee was set up and meets generally twice a year and just simply receives a report about the operations of the water schemes and where we're going and where we're heading. Because the council's forming a water services council controlled organisation jointly with Kaikoura District Council in July 2026, it's unlikely that this committee will continue on beyond that point. So whoever's appointed to this has got 8 months basically of this, which might mean one meeting. So I don't see it being particularly onerous. It's really just being the point of contact who gets an understanding of what's happening in the water for this part of the district, and understands where council's heading with water in a bit more detail than the board will.
Discussion.
I was going to say, you have to nominate yourself.
Second of that, Nika, thank you. So fairly simple. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Well done, Hamish. Thank you very much. And that, yeah, the water side of things is quite an interesting topic coming forward, isn't it? Okay, that's great. And our triennial item is the meeting schedule for the triennium, and we've got essentially 2 decisions to make here: the time to start and the dates. Anything to add to that?
So through the chair, I've just given you a couple of different options for the meetings going forward. So the South Ward Committee used to meet on a Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock, which always worked quite well with the rest of the council schedule as well. Obviously, new community board, so yeah, it's up to you whether you would like to do an afternoon meeting like today, or if you'd like to make an evening meeting. And also, I think I've also given you a Thursday, the second Thursday of the month. Originally, I think on the website it said that we were possibly suggesting the first Thursday of the month, but there's actually a clash there with one of the other. This is a suggestion of dates, but it's up to your availability and.
Yeah, and I guess overlaying that, something that's already been mentioned already by relating to youth council and availability of school. So I think we have to factor that into the discussion.
What would your preference be, the evening or?
Evenings, just
Evening.
with work and kids at school, yeah.
Yeah, well, let's just go around, Hamish.
Preference for the afternoons, but recognise the value in having the youth voice there as well. That means the evenings, so yeah.
Mains for the youth council will have the evenings.
I would agree with that, 7 p.m. What do you mean?
These evenings is
Evenings.
suitable for me, these evenings.
Okay, so 7 o'clock in the evenings, okay?
So,
Yep.
documented schedule, as listed on the report for the next, so 7 p.m. on the
Second
So-
day.
showing.
So through the chair, those are even Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesdays, that's what I was gonna say,
Is that, yeah.
yeah.
And that's the only reason that was the South Board continues to meet on a Wednesday, so we just. I think
Yeah.
I can change
It
correct.
is a Wednesday.
it is Wednesday.
Okay. Wednesday evenings. And that's essentially the second Wednesday of the month, there's no right way through. Okay. So, given on the Brett, thank you. Any further discussion on that? All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Very much. Okay, next item agenda is fees and charges. And William. Oh, thank you, Vanna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at a training change, we give the opportunity to do a quick review of fees and charges. We review these annually as part of the annual plan or long-term plan anyway. Sorry, adjacent to the annual plan. But there's just an opportunity, new training with new people around the table, have a quick look at the fees and charges and make sure you're comfortable with what's being charged. So the ones that these pages are taken from the fees and charges, and you'll see there's a few that are highlighted yellow. So the first one being the Amberley Beach campground. So $20 per night per vehicle, or $10 for 24 hours for power. Right, sorry, yeah, for power.
Plus 20, plus 10.
Hamish, I know that there's no comparative here on previous years.
No, but you can see what's being charged at the other campgrounds around the district, and that may give you a feel.
Having said that, I went and checked back and all these first ones are the same.
I'd assume that if there was a change, it would be in red with the new proposal.
It's the same.
So these are the current fees, and what we're doing is checking whether you're comfortable with the current fees or whether you want to institute a change. And as I say, at each new training, we go around and just check that the new committee or board members are comfortable with the fees that are being charged. We're not proposing that they're changed, but we're checking your level of comfort with those charges.
So you've got a few organisations, you know, the RSA, things where you've got sort of fee waivers. The things like the repair cafe, do they just need to apply for fee waivers each time, or is that something that can be set up as a standing thing?
Yes.
And if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Traditionally over the last triennium, those fee waivers have come via the South Ward Committee. And they have been somewhat problematic because they've been dealt with on an individual basis, and there sort of isn't an overview as to how one might weigh up apples with oranges. So my assumption would be, and the CEO would probably be able to confirm that those waivers will continue to come via this board.
Yes, that's correct. They will continue to come to this board, but if the board, if there was a regular event like the Repair Cafe and the dates were known, then the Repair Cafe could apply for a year's worth of waivers at once.
And you'll certainly note when you look at the old Southwood Committee action sheet that the committee was mindful of not setting a waiver in stone, knowing that there was a community board coming in. The committee was of the opinion that they wanted to ensure that it would be reviewed rather than set for an unlimited amount of time.
I'm aware of the situation with respect to lions and the number of times that lions, as the tin shed, for example. And lions has been involved, has a lot of history in doing this down there. So, I'm not sure where that relationship is at the moment. Just don't have the detail, but that might come up. Well,
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm just through the chair. I'm just looking in the halls fees, and I noticed that there's some additions that have been popped in there in red. I have a concern about point number 3, a minimum of charge of 1 day applies. And just in regards to the Amberley Reserve Pavilion, or what we know as the tin shed, there are a number of organisations there that do hire it by the hour, and if we were to leave that statement, a minimum charge of 1 day applies, that could actually be prohibitive to a number of our groups who are there for an hour a week or 2 hours a week. So I'd be concerned about leaving point number 3 in there.
Yeah, so that would apply to everything. The minimum charge of 1 day applies. It's halls.
Yes, and I guess I'm just referring to the Reserve Pavilion because that's what falls under our jurisdiction.
As it's worded, it would also apply to things like anything as well. Where you've got an hourly charge out there, so that's really, isn't it? I'm not happy.
yeah.
So I
I think I've been striking out 3.
proposed there that was removed.
Yeah, number 3.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, can I just get some clarity around point number 2? No charge for funeral services, that's all fine. But it says this includes the use of the hall, foyer and kitchen, and for the RSA, the meeting room as well. So are we talking about a specific venue there?
It sounds like library.
Yeah, so it doesn't read right in the top of the because I would make the assumption that if it's a waiver for the Return Services Association, that is that going to apply for all of the pavilions and community halls that are listed here, or are we talking about a specific venue? It's just not clear to me.
We need some clarification on that one.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, I noticed on Leafield each hall makes a comment there,
So yeah, I think there's a confusion there between no charge for funeral services, that's a generic one, and then the RSA one.
And just the removal of the parts of the building,
Well,
perhaps?
except that RSA Anzac Day,
Oh no, I'm absolutely in support of them being waived, but it just is unclear given that it's talking about halls, foyers, kitchens, meeting rooms. That isn't necessarily the same for even from, if I just look at our jurisdiction, from Amberley Reserve Pavilion to the Leafield Beach Community Hall. It just doesn't, I'm happy for the first bit perhaps to stay. It's just the explanation of the parts of the building that seems unclear.
I just wonder whether Lions shouldn't be put in there in some way too, because Lions provided all of the operating stuff in the kitchen. It provided all the tables down there, and the chairs.
So, Mr. Chair, are you a member of Lions?
Yes, I am, sorry.
So you just need to be careful.
Yes.
Manners. Yeah, that isn't part of the proposal.
Yeah.
True. Chair, to respect to carry on sort of where if you're sort of impartial. So the issue, and points touched on this, the issue is about the waivers and the fact there's no policy to cover it all and guide us. So you've had etc. So forth. They are used by community and sporting groups. Those are the users, and all good concern. But if you start to give out too many waivers on it, and you're going to end up putting that cost back on to the rate payers, you're going to put it back on to other users by having to raise the charges. So I really do think we do need some sort of overarching guidelines, and for things like RSA and funerals would be perhaps covered off.
So Mr. Chair, there is a background to the RSA waiver, and that is that where the current library is was the RSA hall there on that site. And at the time the council took over that site, it was an undertaking to the RSA that they would have free use of the tin shed and so the RSA room. So I don't know whether the tin shed existed at the time, but it was an undertaking. They had free use. Given they gave up their site, so it's in my mind it's a different situation to the Lions. It's not about what they put in there. It's actually about the fact that they gave up their site to allow the library to be built. So I think possibly as officers we've written this a little bit clumsily, and we can take these concerns on board and just clarify.
Having some guidelines. When we look back on the South Ward community, South Ward, all these requests coming through for fee waivers all the time, with no guidance. It's someone on our own.
So, Mr. Chair, the fee waivers used to be handled by officers, but we had no delegation to do so. When it was recognised, fee waivers were returned to the community committees and the community.
Did the officers guidelines, or they just
We should say no
as well?
At the end of the day, we were, as officers, we were concerned to ensure that people made a contribution to the use of the hall. The money that's coming in doesn't cover anywhere near the cost of the hall, so we were always seeking contribution to the hall. Sometimes we would do partial waivers or whatever, but
certainly, we don't need to say that.
I guess my proposal is just that if the board is comfortable that we could leave there is no charge for funeral services or for the Return Services Association, full stop. And I guess the other community committees and community boards that are affected by that will give comment.
I think we take this away and make sure we've got the RSA comment in the place, because my view is it only applies at the tin shed, but I need to check that out. That's what should be written off across
The district.
Sorry. Can I just ask perhaps a comment in relation to individual applications are treated individually, if you like. So rather than being generic and singling out some organisations, perhaps just the comment that each application for a waiver is treated individually, and then you can have essentially perhaps a predetermined outcome with some organisations, but it just gives you a bit of leeway if you need it. Well, I mean, at the moment, well, up until now, each one has been handled separately.
Yes, just if it says it in there.
through you, Mr. Chair, it may be that this board wishes to develop its own policy for how it handles those. This is your facility under delegation from the council, and council doesn't have a generic policy about how communities handle these waivers for their own facilities. So it may be that you want to develop your own policy for waivers in how you handle it.
Yeah, that could help.
And that would be very helpful. As I said, it was problematic
Yeah.
in the last triennium without a policy.
And I just noted on, the numbers there, number 4 and 5 are the same condition with 2 different prices, and number 5 and 6 are the same condition with 2 different prices.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I know some issues with the way we presented this, and I will take
Okay, yeah,
go away and do some more work on that particular aspect of it.
right. So you,
But I'm still interested in the fees and whether you're happy to say, yeah, we'll carry on with the fees as they sit, and we'll have a look at or whether we're going to do something different.
just
Just a small correction on that, Hannah Springs Hall, although that's not in our jurisdiction, $23 a day seems a pretty good deal. I think it's probably supposed to be 236.
Yeah, that's it.
Good spotting.
Yeah, so these new bonds, if you like, are going to add to the cost for
If we just scrub those out for the meantime and just look at the pricing, I'll undertake to go away and fix. Bring the word back to you for your approval for reforms that fall under your jurisdiction.
Okay.
So if we simply look at the price for Amberley Beach, the cleaning price which applies to all halls, and those prices for the Amberley Reserve Pavilion and the Leithfield Beach Community Hall. Yeah, well, I want to talk pool. I know you raised that issue, Kevin, about the pool. It's my understanding the pool sits on the reserve and is part of your jurisdiction. Clarify that, but if you had any comment about the pool charges as well, that might be useful.
Could I just also note, I know you're going to go and work on those things that are going to be removed, but I noticed that under the Leithfield Beach Community Hall, it does say funerals free of charge, and likewise the Harden Hall, which is not in our area, funeral service donation. So perhaps something like that.
If you ignore everything in red, and this isn't part of your consideration, I'm going to rework that whole bit in red, ignore that completely. And so if you look at pricing, which is the purpose of this paper, is to look at the prices and confirm whether you're happy to carry on with those prices or not.
So, I'm happy to move that we confirm that we satisfied the prices for halls under our jurisdiction. That's some jurisdiction. Further information on
Each board confirms the fees and charges under the community board's jurisdiction, and the officers will bring back further information on individual hires.
individual hire conditions.
I'll second that.
Second, thank you. And, discussion on that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Thank you, Hamish. On to information items. And we have correspondence from Amberley District Residents Association. We'll take as read, but we have already covered this general topic, and Yes, we intend to do that, but I think we'll,
So we just, that's one back to.
yeah, hang on just a minute. So, we've already, moved to have a paper come back for the key ones, and then we'll do assignments, etc. at, our next meeting. So, I think we've covered, this particular item.
So that's what the regime it's enrolled in there for that anyway.
Okay.
So there was also another latest correspondence came asking for assistance in terms of pointing out the fact that they don't intend to carry forward the existing lease in terms of the costs of having to raise the building and hooking up services at asking.
Did everybody get a copy of that?
Hasn't been, I haven't got sent by my phone.
No.
So, Mr. Chair, this item isn't on the agenda.
Sorry, yeah, sorry,
And-
just
and
as
is-
note.
And the request for the men chair to do a presentation will be facilitated in your next meeting.
Yeah, come back
And consider the matter then.
So Hamish, they've also written directly to you on the issue. haven't
Yes,
they?
I've replied to them.
You have replied?
Yeah, I replied today actually. So
Okay, right, fine, that's okay. And we asked them to come along to this. December.
So just for the benefit of the new members here, basically anybody that asks to come along and make a presentation, so long as it's not repetitive, that's generally enabled by officers. So through governance advice, the governance advice might have to chair, but our general view as a council, if people want to come along and address the meeting, they're welcome to do so.
So they have asked to come.
Yes. So deal with that.
Just coming back to this letter, given that we're going to have a paper that's going to make these appointments, better word, representations, is it appropriate that Avril just responds to the Amberley District Residents Association, just letting them know that that is in the pathway, because as Hamish has pointed out, they do have an AGM between now and our next South Ward Community Board meeting.
I'm not taking government business.
Okay, would someone like to move that the information be received? Okay. Hamish, thank you. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Move on to the action sheet, which we have obviously inherited from the South Ward committee, and you know, it is useful to have this summary as a segue into our new meetings. It would be silly not to actually press or be aware of the issues that are underway. So, and these, so these are obviously up to date, Avril, with the
Yep.
most recent actions.
Yep, through the chair, I can provide, if you want any further information, I'm happy to provide that to you.
So is everyone here aware of each of the, let's just go through the items. The geophysical observatory, any questions on that?
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
So it's just to monitor progress, that's the only action required about.
Well,
Mr. Chair, would it be useful if James just gave a quick outline of the geophysical observatory and what's going on there?
Yeah, so if you don't know where the geophysical observatory is, it's behind the tennis courts. There was a reader that measured the magnetic field on the Earth, based in Amberley here. And we have had someone locally approach us. There was a little sign there, but it's the site got forgotten, and someone has approached to do a notice board. So we've got concrete pads down, a table down, we've got a board design written up with the history of the area, and that has been installed yet. I can't sure. It's coming, but the tables are there, and we've had some volunteer efforts to remove the trees and stuff. So, yeah.
So that's the removal of the trees along the school boundary, as well as
We have dropped all the trees at the end of the car park, and there is talk of more trees coming out, but I'm not sure that's got to come back to South Ward Committee. What's happening there? I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything from it for a while, so.
Okay, so yeah, thanks for that. So it's good reason that it just keep this up on the action sheet. Dog park, there's the committee being set up, and so was, and there are various members on that.
Yeah, I can update you.
Okay.
Yeah, by virtue of being on the Southwood Committee, I sit on the dog park working group. They are discussing with officers to potential proposals, and the intent is that some information and potential proposals will come to the Southwood Community Board in either December or February. So that is being well processed and well supported by officers.
Okay, can I just clarify, one of the members of that has gone, you know, Vanessa, and who was she representing on that committee?
Probably Southwood Committee.
Yeah.
So sitting on that that working group at the moment, there is myself. There is Alex Klein, who was previous Southwood Committee member. Brenda, who is a member of the dog working group, I guess you'd say. Tony, who's leading the dog working group, and I'm so sorry, I cannot remember the name of the last lady. She put a cute little dog. So it's a working group of 5 at the moment, with 2 officers in support, Glenda and Cam.
Okay, should we have that in this paper that we are going to get at the next meeting?
The groups one. Sorry, the one on groups, interested groups.
Yes, yeah.
Potentially.
So why don't we put it there for discussion? Okay.
Potentially, yeah. I think that yeah, just to be aware that there is an expectation that some information will come for your consideration in the next month or so. Yeah.
Okay. The next item is fee reduction for Boys Brigade. It's another fee reduction. April.
So through the chair, that was one that the Southwood Committee had agreed to do the $10 per hour for the use of the tin shed, but the Boys Brigade didn't actually set up until earlier this year. So it was a little bit later than, so they were going to review after 6 months, but the Boys Brigade didn't start until they said to review in December. So about 6 months. And I think the last update was that it was only, I think it was to review it just to see how popular the event was and potentially some
I believe the intent was that it would be sensible for the new community board to have oversight over how things were progressing and what their understanding was in regards to waivers or not.
So they contact us. Do we have somebody who's been communicating with them?
Yeah.
the events coordinator will do that.
So there's nothing we really have to do with just for information.
And whether you want me to follow up, I guess, for the next meeting, check.
So I wonder if a follow-up, just to find out what the status of the group is, and then that might give some information for the board to consider the continuation or cessation of the waiver.
So what it doesn't make clear is Just.
Yeah, it was simply the South Ward Committee agreed to the waiver, and they felt that it was only appropriate to do so for their tenure, and that the South Ward Community Board should then be the decision maker on that waiver, or the partial waiver it actually was, moving forward.
So that's the only reason. Okay, right.
All right, thanks, Pauline. Top terrace irrigation. You know much about that?
Yeah. Plants are on, there's no water, but I'm not sure. They were pretty hardy plants. We planted them in July, I think. Down the back there, and yeah, they're talking about trying to get a pipe up to the top terrace to irrigate, but I haven't heard where we're at with that. So Simon Benito's taking the lead on that. So yeah.
Do you have an update on that?
No, I don't. I'm sorry, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Yep.
On that issue.
No problem. So we'll leave that there.
I'll
Is
find.
that- is that
I've
with-
got a reserves group meeting shortly. What's that? 25th November. I'll find out then. I'll report back.
Okay, so we're happy to leave that item there.
Yeah.
Henley Beach Campground Penny, we talked about that today on tour. So we just leave that there.
I could just update on that if you want. So this was an issue that came to the South Ward Committee in regards to concerns in regards to dropping revenue and dropping visitation, and the Amberley Beach Residents Association sought permission, I guess, or consent from the committee to explore some different options. They received a presentation from Penny at the Amberley Beach Residents Association 2 or 3 months ago, and they have recently received a proposal report from Penny, which is just in the process of being shared with the Amberley Beach community. And then if there are any actions in there that they would like to further, then it would come to the South Ward Community Board.
That's through the end of.
It's another page.
Oh, there is two. Very clever. Thank you. Yeah, item 6, there we go. Amberley swimming pool electricity budget.
Yeah, I haven't got an update on that one, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So it just needs to stay there with the spelling correction. Amberley.
Oh, yeah, Tom. And yeah, the next one, upgrades to the skate park at Amberley Domain. It looks as though we've been waiting to hear back from the Youth Council. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I don't believe we've had a response from the Youth Council after suggesting it go back to them for their input.
Okay. So worth keeping on the action list.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. Amberley Football Club, new pitch location. Got any comment on that?
I can just comment on where it was last time, and then James, you might be able to fill in. When it came to South Ward Committee, that it was approved in principle, but there was just some consideration wanted to be given to the other groups that were likely to be impacted, so the AMP and the fire and emergency. I thought that we had some feedback back from that.
Yeah, AMP. So we've had, we had a meeting down there with ARAG, and soccer turned up with their proposal, and AMP shut it down, and that's when we decided to move, as we were talking with Dan today, moving over underneath the hedge. And then how far down they can go is and not interfere with fire under the terrace is where they want to place it. But then it's sort of going to do it off their own bat is the big thing that, as AREG and all us other groups down in the domain are concerned about, is soccer actually finishing the job.
Potentially that would, sorry, Mr. Chair, potentially that would perhaps need to come back to the board, given the resolution was that it was approved in principle based on the information that we had at the time. Sounds like that informational plan may have changed, so perhaps it needs to stay there.
Will that be coming through the AREG meeting?
Well, I thought we got given a map. We said to go over by the hedge. Dean even talked about going over by the hedge.
I think that's what this is.
So what's our role in this?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the committee approved it in principle, subject to a couple of things. It sounds like there has been consultation with AMP and Fire and Emergency, and there is a site-specific plan now there. So my view is that AREG can just carry on and do it. So I don't think it needs to be on your list.
It's just the removal of the hedge, or is the hedge going to stay now?
I don't know, but those are issues for AREG now, aren't they, rather than
yeah,
because you've got to a point where you've agreed a location, you've got agreement with
Yeah.
AMP and FENS, so so this committee doesn't need to involve itself anymore. This board, the previous committee approved in principle. Seems like those things have been met, so it just carries on.
yeah.
So what about the costs involved, for example, the cost of hedge removal and also the cost of about the grass area? Who's paying for those? Where's the money for that going to come from?
Soccer. Soccer has told us they're paying for everything, apart from the hedge removal, which council was going to do, or the men's shed to go there.
Well,
And that's where the grey area.
that's the shed's going to pay for it.
Okay, Murray.
Yeah, I think this matter has come to the Southport Community Board, and I think maybe April, it'll be in the minutes somewhere, I'm sure, that there was a, in principle, discussion and recommendation that there would be some funding set aside to support some of the hedge removal, or some of the pricing towards the hedge removal. So I'm not completely clear of that, but there will be some discussion and a resolution around that, about a principal discussion about supporting it and
Yeah.
in some financial capacity, but I'm not over the detail enough to give you that
So,
confirmation.
so that is likely to
as
come
well.
back to
Yeah.
us.
So
I think we can delete
we
that.
need to find that clarity in the minutes.
That's the hedge.
Yeah, I think the hedge removal was definitely coming back because we didn't have the firm costings on that.
Yeah.
There was a quote, but it was only valid for so long.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's And there was some discussion as to whether it would be funded by the men's shed in its entirety, or as the mayor says, or via Southport, and you're right, there was a discussion.
Yeah.
It'll be in the minutes.
just through the chair, if I may, I think Joe Hassel had received that quote, but the quote only had a relative like 6-month life or whatever. So was it needing to probably go back to plan A to actually ascertain whether that quote was still live enough to be current and still reflective of the costs that might be incurred. So it probably just needs a bit more work around that
Yes.
to be clear.
Yeah, so who's doing that? Who's doing that work? Who's responsible?
I mean, what's your recollection? I'm pretty sure it's that with Southport.
Yeah, no, it was something with
Yeah.
Southwood, but I think there's a bit of chicken and the egg here, because if I remember correctly, the removal of the hedge was actually directly linked to the men's shed lease for the positioning of the building, and then the football ground came later, and so there's a bit of yeah, I guess cross pollination there. So should the men's shed proposed building not be going ahead there, then it may impact I guess the planning around it.
Stuart, I think we're starting to get into a bit of operational detail here. Dan Harris has been the contact on this. I think Dan will figure it out with ARAG, and if there's a requirement for funding, he's been with it. Saying it's the funding requirement.
Okay. So we'll leave it there and come back to right, and the bollards and rope to block off the basketball court. So that looks like a decision that has been inherited by us. Bollards and rope to prevent motor vehicles driving on the new basketball. It's got that we're responsible here.
Okay, so it's for the new basketball court that's been, the half basketball court that's been built down at the domain. Vehicles can actually access that concrete.
Right.
So it's to stop boy races, people doing wheel spins, or and it's just a low bollard fence to go around to prevent
and
vehicles getting onto it.
Yeah, do you know if that's underway?
No, it's not underway.
It's not underway.
No.
So, okay. Fine.
Thank you. James, just through the chair, can you confirm if that was discussed at ARAG? Because I was under the impression that
we were talking about another thing with around.
Okay, I was under the impression that the AMP may be concerned about the positioning of bollards, that it might have an impact on stall holders for AMP shows. So there might need to be some more discussion in regards to whatever, if there's a solution that moves forward, whatever it is, it being removable or something. But I think it's probably best left in the hands of ARAG to
and come back
us. Yeah.
AMP is going to protest. So
yeah, I'm just wondering, again, what is our responsibility?
So through you, Mr. Chair, there may be some funding required for this, and once again, Dan Harris can liaise with ARAG on this matter if ARAG has a definitive view about it progressing or not. And if it reaches that definitive view, well, then Dan can bring paper here of funding required.
Yeah. So can we
push that through?
Chief Operating Officer.
He's not here, sound
No.
That's what you're doing this week, Dan, sorting out the staff ward.
Well, okay, thank you. Long-term plan actions, traffic calming measures, Leafland Township.
Hasn't it? So the 22 we had that LTP, haven't we? Assembly. Should it remain on here? Although it's still an issue for that community.
Yeah.
But obviously, something we have to look at in 2027.
Yeah. Again, we don't have anybody who's really responsible for that one, in this table. So I'm tempted to actually remove it, and then if it comes up again from our discussions with the communities, then we can state it as a more live.
Because it says they approached the roading team. It wasn't an approach to the south.
Mr. Chair, I suggest that someone here contacts the Leithfield residents and just says, is this still a priority? Because there's a long-term plan coming up for 27, and we will start next year on that
so
long-term plan.
When we get a representative,
Yeah, look, I can comment on that. At the last South Ward Committee meeting, the Leithfield representative that's when that update was put there. So although the date is 2022, the update that it be considered for year one of the next LTP does refer to the 2027 LTP. And I can confirm that the Leithfield Community Committee, it is still an issue for them, and they do want
So
to
if we just.
Thanks for that.
remain on that. It's just, it's not dated.
Put 2027.
Yeah.
That's fine.
2023 explains it. Yeah.
And just for your information, so this would come out of the roading budget overall, and the roading budget is funded jointly by NZTA and the Inaugural District Council, and in the current 3-year roading budget, they removed all those small safety improvements. NZTA didn't fund any of those, so council isn't funded any of those either, so it definitely wasn't included in the current LTP. It probably was in our bid, but all those small road improvements, there's no budget for them, and it will depend on what the national land transport policy and therefore the regional land transport policy allows for in the next LTP. Generally, we don't know until after the LTP's almost finalised. So even if it goes into the LTP, if there's no NZTA funding, then
So Hamish, in your opinion, is this the right place for this to
yeah,
be
it's
sitting?
great to keep those LTP issues there, so that when we come to put the LTP together and we sit down with this community board, and you can say, well, hold on, we've got a list. And so anything that you think of for LTP that you want to include, you know, for your future, you should stack them down here, because that'd be great.
Yeah, can I just make a suggestion? And I understand why this is, because this is the transfer from the South Ward Committee to the Community Board, but can we date that final column so we know that we've talked today, that's where we're at, so that then if we're looking at something, we can go, oh, actually.
Yeah, so the last conversation.
Yeah, the last conversation was held, yeah, that'd be great, thank you.
That's good.
Also, just on that matter, and can you also colour code them, so that the last, if there's a conversation, that if there's a new comment in there that wasn't in there in the previous meeting, if you put that in red, so that people can see that that's a new one. So when you look down the list, you don't just spend your time looking at the ones that nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
All right, well, thank you.
So that brings us to the end of our first meeting. So look, you know, thank you very much for your attendance. You know, particularly for those who have not been around the table here, or a similar table for. So it's really good. Now, just in a general sense, outside of them, yes, yeah. Okay.